Hello, bonjour, goeiedag, dumela, legai, salibonani, linjani, magadi, mulishani, mulibwanji, habari. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you're tuned in from, thank you for joining me once again. And this is Get to Know Them. These are Ego Wings facilitators. It's a team of amazing men and women that have just decided to give of their knowledge to us, to make us a better people, to make us think outside the box, and to get us to be financially free. So this is episode 11. Oh my goodness, what a journey. I'm already on episode 11 and I'm extremely excited. My name is Candy and I'm your host. I have sat down with 10 people before this phenomenal speaker that I'm speaking to today. Rather, he's not a speaker, but I'll tell you a little bit about him. If you haven't listened in and gotten to know the other 10 people that have joined us, please go on to any of the social media sites of Ego Wings Consultancy, and you will get to know who they are. Ego Wings Consultancy is really bringing diversity to the table. And this particular person that is joining me today is not a speaker per se. His gift is to talk to people on a one-on-one basis, or to actually just go to people's offices and help them. What does he do? He loves to research. He digs deep. If you're a company that needs information just to try and figure out how you can do things better, this is your person. Apart from that, he was in the media space for years and advertising. So any element of media, advertising, you name it, he's got it. If you are struggling and you don't seem to understand how to get it done, he is the right person for you. He's also an editor and he loves to write. He takes that pen and just makes it so easy. So if you're looking for information on anything in those areas, this is that particular person. Who am I talking about? This is a phenomenal, incredible gentleman. He is based in South Africa and lives in the beautiful city of Cape Town. So I got to meet this person, and he is just one of those people that is bubbly, that is full of life, that makes writing look so easy. When you take up any article that he has written, you don't put it down. You are so glued and you want to get to the end. And I have been sort of twisting his arm to help people write their biographies. He's thinking about it. He may just do it for you. Ask him. I don't think he'll mind. But today we're not here to talk about what he does in his professional space. We want to get to know who he is. What is he all about? What makes him fun? What does he do for a weekend? How does he spend his time if his head is not, looking down there and writing or typing away? So today, the person I'm talking to, the person I've invited, I am so honored. His name is David Gorin. David, thank you so much for making it to join us this afternoon. How are you, David?
Candy, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm flattered and honored to be chatting to you. And I'm fine, thank you, today. Yes, always busy, which is a good thing. But fine, thank you. And I'm glad to have made some time for you. Lovely to chat to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Anyway, I'm not going to let you get away with this. I just want everybody who's tuned in to know that this man went to school and studied to be an accountant for 7 years. He did a BCom in accountancy and he decided, nope, I think I want to do advertising. So again, if you're looking for someone who can help you on how to juggle those figures, this is the man. He can do everything for you. But again, you see, I'm digressing. We're not here to talk about what he does in his everyday life. We're here to find out who he is. So David, again, thank you for making it. So me and everybody who's tuned in would like to find out, who is David? What is David about? Who is he?
I think I'm quite a complicated character. I think I'm, like all of us, I have multiple facets to me. You mentioned, Candy, my working career and what I studied. And I think that sort of epitomizes me. I like to do different things. And probably in retrospect, my big error in terms of my career path was locking myself into something that I didn't wholeheartedly realize was what I really wanted to do. And so my journey in terms of work has been quite a strange one, but I've arrived here now. And I think my multifaceted interests have come to the fore. And so I love things like researching, because it plays to my strengths in numbers, as you've mentioned, my accountancy training. But I also love writing because it plays to my strengths in sort of just general interest around current affairs, in history, in reading about people, you know, who are the great people that have made the world's great historical moments come to life, who believe in certain paths of our futures, etc. What are the stories that they can tell? What lessons can we learn from them? And so all of these sort of things, they fascinate me, and I would like to think that in a small way I can make them come alive for people like your clients, like Eagle Wings customers and clients.
Fantastic. I love that. Amazing. So for you, David, what is it like? What inspires you to write? Do you need to be in a certain mood? Do you have to be thinking about something or the other? What gets you to write?
That's an interesting question. And in fact, I've read quite a lot about that. And I think most writers, Candy, they fall into one of two stools. They are either very, very disciplined, and, you know, you can read of great writers who've got that down to a fine art. They get up at 5 in the morning, they do some exercise, have something to eat, and then they write from, say, 7 in the morning till lunchtime, etc. And other writers who perhaps don't keep hours, but they adamantly write sort of 20, 30 pages a sitting. And then you get the school of thought, which is, you know, just write what you feel like writing, when you believe you want to write. And I guess I found for me, the best way that works is a little bit of both. You know, I try to be quite disciplined in trying to write something every single day, but I also think it's a little bit, it's important to also just let the creative juices mull sometimes, to let your feelings flow as to how and what you want to write about at any particular moment. And so sometimes I write, you know, I sort of sit down and I say, right, I'm going to write now about my corporate related client work. And then sometimes I think, well, actually, that's not going so well. Let me put that aside and let me do some creative writing, be it a little bit of poetry or some lifestyle article work that I'm trying to progress, etc. So it's a little bit of a hybrid space, I think. And I think the important thing is really just to start.
I love that. So what's the favorite time that you can recall where you sat down and you just wrote and wrote and wrote? What's that one time where you can actually go back in your mind and say, it was that?
And yeah, I think I'd have to be honest and say there was a particular moment that I'm very proud of, which was a very personal moment, but it was touching because it was for my mother's 90th birthday. And we were all struggling to find that right present for her. You know, it's not easy for someone who, you know, who's 90 years old and, you know, they've got everything they need, etc. But I decided I was going to write her a poem. And irrespective of the quality of the poem, she loved it so much that she's taken this piece of paper and she's framed it and she's put it by her bedside table. And obviously I wrote it from all of my brothers and her extended family. It wasn't just for me, but I think it was really what I really realized at that point was that I have the ability to write that it touches people. And that was probably my most memorable piece of direct writing that I've done for a while.
Wow, what a blessing. Your mom is 90. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
She's
you
90,
are blessed. Yeah. You are so blessed.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's lovely. I heard you mention brothers. So it's just a family of boys?
Yes. So I've got 2 brothers. And yeah, I think we're relatively close. So I don't see my one brother too much because he lives up in Vanderbijl Park in Gauteng in northern South Africa. Whereas I'm in the southern parts of South Africa, so I live in Cape Town. But yeah, so we're a family of brothers, and yeah. but my wife is quite close to my mother as well, and my kids are. So we're a fairly small but close-knit family. Yeah.
Fantastic. I was about to say, sorry when I interrupted you there. I was about to say, it doesn't look like you were the bully because you're so calm, David. I don't see that you are the one who was always getting into trouble. But thank you for sharing, the joys of your mom. I mean, that's really memorable. My next question is, what do you love?
I love a few things. I love good company. I love music. I can play the guitar and the piano a little bit, not too well. And I love good books or good literature. And I love football. I think my idea of a great weekend would be not too long drive, but a short drive out of my dialing zone, maybe sort of just a few hours into the country, a nice meal, a nice glass or two of wine, and then some cool music, and then a nice run in the afternoon, and then a bit of football in the evening. That would be my perfect day.
Now that, I think, yeah, you and I are cut from the same cloth. So a few things that I want to just dig into there, when you shared. So you can play the guitar and the piano. Oh my goodness, for how long have you been playing?
Look, don't misunderstand me. I don't play them very well. I like to just jam on my own, just to sort of, I find it relaxing. And I think, music is a little bit like writing in the sense that, or the written word, in that there's so many avenues to explore. It's an enlightening way to sort of unleash your soul in creative spaces, Unfortunately, Kenny, I must be honest, I took piano lessons when I was quite young. My mother sort of forced that upon me. But like a lot of young people, I think you tend to rebel against what your parents want for you, And so as soon as I could, I was probably in the region of about 13 or 14. I forced my mother to cancel my piano lessons. And to her credit, she was firm. She said, I'll only allow you to cancel piano if you take up another musical instrument. So, of course, being a young lad, I said, okay, I'll try the guitar. So I replaced the piano with the guitar. But unfortunately, again, lessons are not easy for young people. That discipline, I think, doesn't come easy to in particular, rebellious young men or young guys. So I unfortunately didn't persevere with lessons as much as I should. And so I never really had that strong foundation for either the piano or the guitar. But I still love just fiddling, and so for 20 minutes or 30 minutes almost every evening, I just chill, and I find it very relaxing.
Oh, I love that. My neighbor, I think you would really be in the same WhatsApp group. He does the same thing every evening on the dot at 5:05 p.m. He's on his piano. And sometimes I'm like, what was that supposed to be? So I think you are much better than he is. He just loves to do that for really 15 minutes and then he's done. The other question that I wanted to ask, like everybody in Africa, for those of you that are not in Africa, you definitely know that people in Africa and soccer, we are glued to the hip. We are one.
Yeah.
Your team, your favorite team, let's talk about Premiership League. What's your favorite team?
Oh, without question, Liverpool. I've been supporting them since 1974.
Yes. Oh, you make me happy. You and I, yes. We never walk alone. We never walk alone.
Yes, exactly.
So your thoughts
on
a
serious note.
Yeah.
On a semi-serious note, I think there are a lot of lessons that sport teaches us about life, and not necessarily, of course, only Liverpool, but I think just as one example, when you play sport at a certain level, you obviously have to be hyper competitive, and to get there, you have to practice. And I think there's a bit of a misperception amongst a lot of general football fans or sports fans, but also amongst humanity generally. You don't actually have to be or have God-given talents to be exceptional at your chosen field. A lot of the brilliant sports people we watch, whatever sport it might be, they get there by absolute dedication and hard work. it's not only talent, so generally when I watch, whether it's my favorite team or other great sports peoples, I'm in deep admiration of their commitment to how they got to the pinnacle of what they do. So I watch sport, Candy, to sum it up, from a few different levels, different perspectives. I love my team, but I love the commitment and the dedication which those players show,
Absolutely. And even the fans, don't forget us fans. Oh my goodness, we've been there. We've been to hell and back with Liverpool. We really have. And that's why I have to say you never walk alone. We are very resilient. I think Liverpool fans, we are extremely, we stick by the boys. We just, no matter the season. You also, you've alluded to soccer, as a sport where you can learn a lot of great lessons, and you're so right. And I heard you mention that you run as well. How consistent are you? And, as a person also who gets up in the morning and, I do my runs, it's not easy, hey? It's a lot of, mental discussions in there. You have to either you prep yourself in the evening, you put your running gear there in the morning. And how have you managed? Because you look like a person who's really been consistent to it. And just to help people who are struggling with being consistent with something, how do you use your running? How do you do it every time you go running?
Yes, that's a good question. I think if there's one lesson that COVID, this pandemic, has taught us, is that we have to be resilient. We have to learn how to dig deep, to bring our core strengths to the fore. And I'm lucky in the sense that I think running, although again, I'm not a fanatical runner. I mean, I run pretty much every day, probably, or I do some exercise every day. So I probably run, say, 4 or 5 times a week. My distances as I've got a bit older have come down. And so my times have also got a bit slower. But I love running for the just the sort of the solace that it gives to, just to my headspace, peace and calm. And I think from that point of view, it's definitely been a help in the difficult times that we've been through. So ironically, because I love it as a fantastic leisure pursuit, it's also helped me to cope with strange times, shall we say. And you're right, Candy, it's a discipline. And so the discipline, I think, itself helps with all manner of challenges, be they personal challenges or work-related challenges or relationship challenges. That discipline to just dig deep when you need to can really help in all facets of life, I think,
You're so spot on that one. So now moving to the next question is, you are different from the other facilitators, the other speakers. Yours is more personalized. So you go into an organization to help that organization shift their thinking, to help that organization from, let's say they were on level 2 to get them to level 5. You even dig deep and do the research for them. When did the penny drop for you that that's what you wanted to do? That was your passion, to go into offices and just give of your time, because that's a lot of dedication. Again, we're talking about, determination, dedication, being focused on something and talking to your mind that you're going to do it, because, research work is not easy. It's a lot. So when did the penny drop for you that that's what you wanted to do?
I think there were a couple of things that contributed to it. When I was in advertising, I realized over the sort of the last decade or so of my career in advertising that there were a lot of younger people who were coming into very large organizations, often with very big responsibilities and budgets, but not necessarily with the right support structures within their companies, and nor with the right qualifications and expertise, to be honest, sometimes either. And very often I realized that their cries for help, silent as they might have been, manifested in ways which needed support. So people like me and with my levels of experience could offer that support, maybe not necessarily in direct ways that of their jobs specifications, but more sort of on the side. So in other words, coaching them around their job, helping them to grow their self-belief, or guiding them through a particular process around a problem, rather than helping them solve that problem per se. And then I think there was another penny that dropped. It was probably somewhere around reading the works of the Israeli historian and futurist. His name is, it's got a strange name, Yuval Noah Harari. He's written a few exceptional books around the future and the future of work, where things like artificial intelligence are taking us. And one of the learnings I took from reading his incredible books was that, the future of work in the next 5, 10, 20 years is going to be so radically different from where we are now, that many people are going to either end up doing multiple jobs over the course of their remaining working careers, or they're going to drop out in desperation, or they're going to have to reinvent themselves so many times that they're not going to be anywhere near doing now what they're doing in the future, what they're doing now. And so those kinds of learnings, I think, made me realize that, A, I need to apply them to myself. So I need to start reinventing the way I work and think too. But then also, how am I going to offer my skills and my expertise in this age of disruption? How am I going to apply what I'm good at to help people cope in this strange digital disruptive age? That makes sense.
It does. It really does. Oh, loving that. So with everything you've said, if you were standing in front of a house, and then you closed your eyes and opened them again, and you saw David standing in front of you at 20, what would you say to David at the age of 20? What is that one thing that you would want David to always remember and just never forget when he gets to where you are today? What's that advice you'd give David?
I would tell him to follow his heart, and phrased a little bit, or spun out a little bit, try to find a purpose for your passion, or the other way around, find passion with your purpose. Because if you can combine that, passion and purpose, then I think you will not only have a career, but you'll love what you do, and you'll be able to make a living out of what you do.
I love that. Just on that statement, when did that resonate with you? When did you discover that? Because I think a lot of us don't seem to understand that if you run, or if you are so hungry for something that you're passionate about, and you turn it into your career, you're going to be happy every day. And I think people are still trying to figure that out. So what advice can you give? When do you think people need to, embrace that? What's the advice that you can give our listeners? It's tricky, because I think in a sort of a paradoxical way, our modern age is so complex. Young people in particular, but of course only young people, we have so much choice, and it becomes confusing sometimes to find, in amongst all this choice, where do we fit? Never mind from a human perspective, but also from a career or a work perspective. And I think the only advice I could really offer is to say, explore. If you're in a particular role or a job at the moment, or you're thinking about going down a certain career path, read. Try to find advice from mentors or possible mentors. Watch documentaries about the field that you're thinking of going into. And then digest it, and then come back to it a week or two later from a completely fresh perspective, and then try to absorb more information. And then try to find tangential fields where you might find different perspectives on that. So for example, if you're thinking of going into the legal space, try to find, the legal space from a corporate perspective, or from a maritime law perspective, or from a justice perspective, so that you can explore that avenue around different side routes, so to speak. And then you might find that you can gel one of those with your personal passions as best possible. And then you can really go for it. And as it unwinds, you'll probably find then that you can combine that purpose with your true passion. Wow. My second last question, and again, diving into what you just shared with us now, it's it's very difficult for people to wrap their minds around getting a mentor. It's very difficult for people to approach people to say, can you help me? I was speaking to one of the facilitators a couple of weeks ago, and she said something very powerful to say, social media even allows us to have mentors without them knowing that they're mentors, especially if they're giving us information. So in your space, you've been in advertising and media, and you encompass the whole element of advertising and media. Do you mentor people? Can people approach you for that? Do you take on the young people, like you said, because that's why you got into it, because you saw that there was a gap. There was no one holding the hand of these people. Do you do that? Can people approach you? Can people write to ask? Is it something that you ever look at doing to just help these young people who are coming up? Because I think the young people sometimes get it wrong, especially if they have been to school, they've gotten their masters or their PhDs with no form of work experience. They just assume I've done it all, I've got a paper, I need to get to the top. It doesn't work like that. You need to start from the bottom up if you're going to stay at the top. So do you think of ever mentoring people, pulling people up? Do you take on mentors or mentorships?
Candy, gladly, and the short answer is yes.
Perfect.
I think coaching is multifaceted too. You can have expert coaches, people who've trained in that, people who are experts in a particular field. But ironically, I think sometimes the best coaches are the ones who understand the coaching process rather than the particular field in which their protege, so to speak, might want to be an expert. So sort of a strange musical analogy would be, I think you can be an excellent piano teacher without being an excellent pianist. If a piano student comes to someone, or for example, comes to me and says, I want to be a brilliant classical pianist, could you help me? I would say, well, I can't teach you the piano, but I could coach you in the process of becoming a classical pianist. And there's a very important difference there. And so I think, coming right back to your question, I think the answer is yes. I would love to help people. And I think I could help them in a range of ways, with respect to processes, to understanding your self-belief as a person, and how to build yourself up with someone like me as a guide or as a mentor.
Oh gosh, okay, we've come to almost the end of our our discussion. But before I let you go, you alluded to it earlier. COVID came at a time when none of us saw it coming. I think if somebody had stood on a pulpit and said to us in 2019, in January, to say, wait for 2020, it's going to be tough, you are going to be indoors, we were going to laugh that person to a mental asylum. But there it is. We had COVID, it disrupted us, it shook us, it threw us. And still to this date, yes, the vaccines are out. We are praying and hoping that we do better, that, with these vaccines, that we can get back to our normal lives, though I don't think we can ever get back. It's just learning to navigate this new norm. So with your expertise and what what is that advice that you can give all of us in how to just live life going forward, bearing in mind that COVID is here to stay? What can we do?
I think two things, Candy, and they're quite sort of different ends of the same spectrum. I think the one thing is to grow our inner strength or our resilience. There's a book by a South African sort of a human resource specialist, guy called Richard Sutton. He talks about stress-proofing ourselves. And I think that word, it's quite a strange word, but I think if all of us look at how we can make ourselves more resilient, to stress-proof ourselves, that will help us enormously. And The second thing, now I forgot my train of thought. The second thing I think is more to do with the creative angle around ourselves. How do we grow who we are? You know, look for new angles to who we can become. And that's not really to do with our stress proofing. That's more to do with growth, our mindset. You know. So, oh, and here, sorry, I've remembered what I was going to say. Mm-hmm. It comes from an ancient Greek philosopher and writer called Homer. And he urged us to carpe diem, which essentially means seize the day. So there's that dichotomy, that strange, you know, difference between stress-proofing ourselves, making ourselves stronger, but to do what? To live for the moment, seize the day. I think those would be the two sort of pieces of advice that I would offer.
Fantastic. And there it is. We've come to the end of episode 11. David, thank you so much for making it, for joining us. I know you're so busy, you're forever writing, but for giving us this opportunity to dive into your life and get to know you a little better. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Candy. Lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
Great. So there you have it. Another amazing, discussion. I was with a very different person today, not a speaker, but this is a person who's very deliberate with what they do. You are needing help on how to just do things differently. You want him to come to your office. You want him to have a one-on-one with you. He's available virtually. Please get in touch with us. What David has shared with us today is that we need to be resilient. It is very important to dig deep within ourselves and just look at each one of us in our own spaces and find out, how can I be creative? How can I reinvent myself? Because at the end of the day, even if we are families, it is about us. He also talked about consistency. He gave examples of the love of soccer and just how he gets up every morning to run. And I think we all need to be able to talk to ourselves. It's about the mind. And we need to be focused just on what we do on a day-to-day life. So if you want David to help you, whether you want someone to help you doing the research, whether you want someone to help you with strategy, anything to do with advertising and media, if you're wanting an editor, if you're looking for someone to help you write your memoir, like I said, I'm pushing him to go that route. He will gladly do it. Please send us an email at info@ewconsults.com. On that note, I'd like to say thank you very much for joining me. What an enjoyable chat I've had with David. As you can see, he's as easy as you and me. So we should never judge these people, by who we see when they are on the platforms or when they walk past in our offices, or if they're just telling us things that we can do. They too do what we do when they are not being of great blessings to all of us. So I'll see you next week at the same time. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Dig deep, live large, be safe. Thank you.